So this is the SoftwareONE webinar this morning with VMware, and Dan Falcon has joined us from VMware. So this is from the VMware End User Computing division, and Horizon Mirage is what we'll be covering off today. So I'm joined today by Dan Faulkner from VMware's End User Computing division. Before I dive into the main part of today's session, we have some people on today's call who are new to SoftwareONE and some familiar names. So I'll just briefly provide a quick overview of SoftwareONE. So SoftwareONE is a global software solutions provider with offices in over 60 countries and supporting more than 85 countries in total. I do apologise, that ran on too quickly. This enables us to offer a global reach and the ability to provide local customer service that our organisations expect. The size of SoftwareONE, with over 1,000 employees, allows us to share our employee knowledge around the world using our internal platforms and tap into that pool of information and vendor specialists as and when required to support our customer requests. And VMware is very much a strategic vendor of ours and a key technology enabler for our customers and factor in SoftwareONE's growth. So SoftwareONE's business model is very simple because it's focused on software and is one of the reasons customers like dealing with us. So we have four key pillars to our business: software licensing expertise. So our focus on licensing means we can provide the most accurate and suitable recommendations based on our customers' environments. A software lifecycle portal. This is SoftwareONE's web-based portal that allows our customers to manage and track their software contracts and control their procurement policies. And software asset management. Our services here are helping customers make the most of their software assets across their physical and virtual estates. And our Viral Assist program, where SoftwareONE works with chosen SI partners around the world and locally to help our customers deploy their technologies. So over the last 12 months, SoftwareONE has been building up our own capabilities to support and complement these four pillars by aligning our years of licensing knowledge with new services that focus on IT strategy and technology advisory. So SoftwareONE's Technology Solutions division houses our technical solution specialists and solution architects that can support your IT strategies, whether it be unified comms, data center management and virtualization, desktop management and virtualization, and the data platform and BI. So the team is there to help you define your requirements, provide solution recommendations, deliver demo sessions, solution architecting, and help define deployment plans and timelines. So SoftwareONE's technology solution team works closely with our licensing consultants as well to ensure IT road mapping services take into account new licensing models and the best approach to take to help drive down TCO and improve the ROI for your investments. So at this stage, I'd like to hand over to Dan from VMware. Dan, I'll just take you off unmute.
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can, Dan. Excellent, good stuff. And I will just hand you presenter rights.
Right. That slide?
Okay.
Yeah, can you see that slide okay, David?
Yeah, we've got you done. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So, yeah, good morning everyone. Thanks for joining and taking the time. Apologies again for the technical hitch and late start to the webinar. Appreciate some of you might have to drop off early before we finish, so if you do, don't worry, we will send out the recording of the webinar and some supporting materials as well, so yeah, apologies. So as David mentioned, I'm Dan Faulkner. I'm an EUC or End User Computing Specialist here at VMware, and joining me on the call is also Paul Whiten, who is an EUC Specialist, Sales Engineer or Technical Specialist. So Paul's on the call to help with questions at the end. Obviously, if there are questions as we go through that can't wait, then feel free to use the chat window, and we'll get to those at the end. But we will have some time for Q&A, and feel free to either mail us afterwards or just use the chat window, or we'll open the lines at the end so we can have a chat. So there's quite a lot of information to get through. Bear in mind we don't have a huge amount of time, so it'll be fairly quick. But yeah, bear with us, and hopefully it'll be useful. So, what we're seeing in the market over the last couple of years is a huge shift in end-user computing and the consumption of end-user computing. And I'm sure some of these numbers won't be unfamiliar to many of you. The bottom line is from all of this is that we're seeing things like the consumerization of IT really shifting the way IT and the business has to support their end users. We're getting pressure from end users in the environment expecting to be able to use any device from any location to get access to their apps and data. They're used to this kind of ability in their personal life with various tools and devices, and they expect to be able to bring this into the workplace and transform the way they do their business in the same way. So it's no surprise that over 66% of the workforce now use at least 2 devices. I know that I carry around at least 3. Increase Android shipments, certainly an increase in bring your own, which we kind of just touched on, but again, huge prediction in that half of all non-PC devices will be bring your own by 2016. Massive change in applications as well. We're seeing a huge amount of software as a service based and web-based applications being deployed now, and actually more so than native Windows-based applications, and an increase in the sort of mobility and remote workforce. We already see at least 30% of the worldwide workforce working mobile, but that's increasing day in, day out, and we're seeing an increasing number of users and workers needing to be able to work from home or work on the road, even more so than in the past. So some of the challenges that brings, has been difficult for IT to grasp and manage, and we see kind of 3 typical approaches. And the first approach is to ignore it, and probably that's been certainly done in the past. But unfortunately, that leads to a number of problems, certainly around security and compliance risk, and just general lack of control and higher operational expenditure. So generally ignoring it is not a good option. Locking it down is another option. We could lock down users' laptops, desktops, what they get access to, and really make it very tight and actually difficult to use. And the problem with that is, of course, it ends up with a poor user experience and typical productivity. It means that the users are not able to work when they want and how they want, which again isn't great, and IT are viewed as the bad guy. And then lastly, we could look at buying various point solutions to address these various problems in the environment. But again, the problem with that is that it increases operational expenditure through complexity, typically doesn't scale, doesn't integrate very well, and just gives management even more of a headache than before. So, ideally what we're looking at doing, and this is the VMware vision for end-user computing, is a new approach. And it shouldn't be completely brand new to some of you, but essentially what we're talking about doing is taking our assets, and when we look at our IT assets, we're talking about applications, data, and devices. And we're looking at those assets, and what we want to do is try and centralize them and transform them to deliver them as a service. So if we can take those assets, deliver them or centralize them so we can then broker them out centrally as a service, it gives us greater flexibility around what devices the users are using, who gets what, where, and of course it's centrally controlled by policy. So that's our kind of very high level vision. If we transform into services, broker out centrally, and have it policy controlled, that allows us to deliver out to multiple devices at any location. So VMware Horizon, if you're not familiar, is our platform and new kind of branding, I guess, for end-user computing at VMware, and that's what's pulling all of this stuff together. And essentially, the top line there is our assets, as I mentioned, our applications, our desktops, and our data. And again, if we centralize those in the data center or control them centrally from the data center, we're then able to have this central broker in the middle, which is able to, we're able to define policy around and set security around and contextual awareness. and then broker out those applications, desktops and data depending on what our users need when they need it to any of those devices, whether it be a PC, a laptop, a mobile, a Mac or Windows OS. It shouldn't really matter to the end user as long as they get what they need when they need it and it's secure. So just to drill into that in a little more detail, so essentially what we're talking about here is the VMware Horizon Suite, and that's something that we launched back in March now of this year. But the components of the Horizon Suite, again, some of them are newish, but generally they're quite mature products that we've had for some time that have been pulled together, integrated as a single suite and single solution. So we're going to concentrate today mainly on Horizon Mirage, but it's important to note the kind of two other elements in there. Horizon View, as it was called, VMware View, is our virtual desktop solution, and we'll touch on that in a little more detail in a second. And then Horizon Workspace, which is essentially the glue that holds all of this together. It's that broker or portal or catalog, whatever term you'd like to use, that allows us to aggregate these assets, these applications and data. It allows us to centrally manage enterprise file sharing and collaboration. It allows us to broker out our applications, whether they be virtual apps, whether they be software as a service apps, and also our desktops, our virtual desktops. It allows us to broker all of those out from a central catalog, web-based catalog with single sign-on. So let's focus more on Horizon Mirage, as that's what we're here to talk about today. And just to kind of set the scene, I suppose something quite important to note, there can be confusion around this as where Horizon Mirage sits alongside Horizon View. Horizon View is our VDI or virtual desktop product that we've had for a number of years now, quite a very mature product. But of course, we all expected to see this year of VDI back in 2009 that didn't quite go as Gartner predicted. But saying that, we've seen a huge increase in VDI deployments. But for some environments, certainly some customers, VDI has been perhaps not the best solution for all of their workforce. It's great in certain scenarios, very strong use cases, great for security, great for remote roaming access. But typically offline productivity has been difficult with VDI. So Horizon View, take the desktop, virtualize it, centralize it. Image management is easier, security is easier, remote access is easier. But where you've got users that need to work offline, branch offices with poor connections, you've got users needing to work on a plane, on a train, basically with poor or no internet access, we needed to look at another solution, and that's where Horizon Mirage comes in. And Horizon Mirage essentially gives us many of the benefits of virtual desktop or VDI, but allows local execution. So it's centrally managed, but local execution. So Windows and applications are still native and executing locally on my laptop or desktop PC. So that's the key thing, the key difference, I guess, between Mirage and View is one's executing in the data center, the other is executing natively and locally, and that's the key difference. So just going into that in, again, a bit more detail, what Horizon Mirage allows us to do is very simply take a desktop, laptop, PC, and centralize it and synchronize it into the data center by running an agent on that machine, and break it up into layers. And it's essentially a layered image management solution. And again, we'll go into a bit more detail as we go through. But what it means is it gives us that centralized approach. It gives us a simpler way to manage desktop images and then control them from a single admin console to give us backup and recovery, easier provisioning. And that allows our users essentially a great performance through because it's native performance and local execution, and it allows them to have that roaming and offline capability that some of them will certainly need. So again, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly, but we will send out the information after. I know we're conscious of time, but essentially, some of the main challenges that we see our customers facing around end-user computing and desktop is for end users. It's about PC downtime and poor user experience. If they're not being able to work, it's taking them a long time to log in, their machine isn't available offline, or downtime is an issue, whereas to troubleshoot and get problems resolved or data restored to their machine takes longer than they expect or we would like, then that's an issue. Also, high support costs and specifically distributed PCs for IT is always been a problem. We've managed PCs the same old way for many years, but certainly distributed PCs take a bit more work, and traditionally, there's a high support cost associated with managing those distributed PCs. And then to the business, it's the same kind of theme. Productivity loss. If the users aren't working as much as they could be, if the experience is poor, if we're not giving them the tools they need to do for their job, there's going to be a productivity loss. It means the business isn't as agile as it could be, and maybe not as competitive as it could be. So breaking that down, again, some of the challenges specifically for IT, we're looking at migrating users. That's a challenge right now, and we're going to talk more in detail around the migration side of things. But migrating users to new devices, it's time-consuming. There's user downtime associated with that. PC break fix and troubleshooting, again, time-consuming. There's possible data loss and loss of productivity. And some of the benefits that we're looking at here with this centralization image management technology is obviously the ability to centralize and simplify, but also very, very simply deploy Windows images and applications, easier and faster desktop recovery, and then being able to fix system layers, and we'll go into a bit more detail, but being able to fix the system without affecting the user's data and personalization on that machine. The challenges for end users, often, maybe not being able to work offline, not being able to use the full power of their PC, whatever that might be, downtime due to updates and fixes or upgrades, and then IT servicing and also break fix, time to go through the troubleshooting process with the help desk, not being able to find files that possibly they've deleted by accident or lost, etc., etc. And these are some of the benefits, of course, being able to allow bring your own or a choice of devices, enjoying the local and native performance. Self-service file recovery is key, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail, and being able to fix a malfunctioning PC, again, without user data loss. And then lastly, for the business, again, I'm going to go over this slide fairly quickly, but it's about costs. We're seeing a huge rise in not only capital but operating expenditure as things become more complex. We've got those risks around security and compliance, and obviously migrations are key on everyone's mind at the moment as well. And essentially what we're doing here is by taking our approach, we're reducing the desktop TCO, we're reducing help desk costs and tickets, we're making the cost and management of branch offices and remote users a whole lot easier, and that essentially leads to lower operational expenditure, lower capex investment, and increased end user productivity. So I think we've said enough about this: improving productivity, reducing support costs, and improving service uptime. So let's have a look at a bit more detail at what Mirage actually does. So, if we look at our PC or laptop today running Windows, it's traditionally made up of a number of things. We've got obviously the operating system, we have our applications that may be core business applications. We also have user-installed applications, perhaps, if that's allowed or required. I know that, I've got iTunes installed on my machine, but I've also got some various widgets and gadgets that I like to use for my day-to-day job, and certainly some users will need that kind of flexibility. I've got the drivers that are associated with my hardware, custom settings and wallpapers, backgrounds, things like shortcuts, printers, map drives, etc. And then, of course, any data that's stored locally. And I know, with all the best will in the world, we look to centralize data and use various methods to do that, but invariably there is data out there sitting locally on machines of some form or fashion. And they can typically be split into two categories. We can think of things as things IT want to manage and control, like the core operating system, the core applications, and the drivers. So the things that make our machine work and the platform. And then the stuff that the end user might want to control and manage, and that's their data, things like their background wallpaper, those user-installed applications, and any kind of custom settings that they've made, preferences, dictionaries, etc. What Mirage does is it understands those things, and it uses a layered approach. So what it does is it looks at that entire system as a number of layers, and we can see those layers on the screen. It doesn't move things around on the physical machine. We're not talking about doing that, but what it does is it logically layers and segments those discrete pieces within the Mirage system. And the benefit of doing it that way is it allows us to touch, to update, to enforce certain layers, and even restore certain layers without impacting the other layers, for instance. So and that'll bring us on to where that's important to Windows 7 migrations. But essentially, that's the Mirage approach, is that logical layering of those discrete portions of data, applications, operating system, and drivers, and the things that IT and the end users want to manage. So some of the core components, if you like, and key benefits is by taking this approach, it allows us to create a common base layer. So often image management is a headache for most organizations, but this approach allows us to manage a single copy of Windows and core applications across the business, rather than having multiple images for different departments and different user groups. It allows us to have that common base layer, which really not only saves around storage, but also the time and management of those images and updating and patching and etc. etc. So that's one of the key kind of benefits of this approach. Moving on from that, what it also allows us to do is once we've defined and deployed this common base image with Mirage, we can also look at departmental installed applications. Groups of applications that are specific to organizational units or to departments within our company, where maybe traditionally we created a discrete image for each of those departments with those applications. Because we've got this layered approach, we can deploy a single common base layer of the operating system and then layer on top those applications that are specific to certain departments. That makes our management much easier, makes it very flexible, and our route to deploy much quicker and slicker than before. Something that to bear in mind, again, if you may or may not be familiar, but ThinApp is a tool that VMware have had for a number of years. And VMware is our application virtualization tool, which allows us to package up and bubble or isolate, if you like, an application and its dependencies within a portable package or a single file that can be deployed out anywhere. And some of the benefits of that is, again, it makes the application very portable. It makes the ability, or one of the key abilities, is to be able to deploy and run multiple versions of the same application on a single system. So you can imagine IE6 based applications being able to run on Windows 7, multiple versions of Office, for instance, multiple versions of various applications. We can do that isolation and that packaging and bubbling and deploy those applications out through a single file. When you purchase VMware Horizon Mirage, ThinApp is actually comes as part of that bundle, part of that package. And again, what that allows us to do is where we just talked about application layering. When you combine the ability of and the simplicity of application virtualization of ThinApp, it allows us to inject those ThinApp applications and deploy them out to our departments of users within the Mirage layers. So the two tools work really nicely together to make the whole operation of deploying an OS and then the associated applications much easier. So that's something key to bear in mind, is ThinApp application virtualization does come with Horizon Mirage. The other key element is, as I mentioned at the beginning, we're seeing huge demand for bring your own PC, bring your own device, whatever term you want to use. But essentially, whether it's user owned or whether it's company owned, doesn't really matter too much. But it's about having the flexibility of whatever device I like. And there's a couple of use cases. Imagine an exec coming in. He's bought himself a nice new MacBook Pro over the weekend. Turns up. Make to the IT department. Make this work. Give me my stuff. No clue that maybe that there are certain applications that will only run on Windows OS, for instance, today. And the difficulties of managing a Mac in the environment. So that's one use case, for instance. The other use case is, contractors maybe coming into the environment, wanting to bring their own Mac device and use that Mac device on your corporate network. How do you give them access to your data, your corporate applications, again, without either touching or managing or breaking their device, without losing, security and compliance? So these are kind of some of the challenges that our customers are seeing. And again, with Mirage comes a tool called Fusion Pro. And Fusion Pro allows us to install a Windows operating system and manage a Windows operating system running on a Macintosh, for instance, the same way as VMware Player does it on a Windows-based operating system. So basically what we're saying is it allows us to run a controlled corporate image and applications over and above or on top of an employee-owned or a contractor-owned or a bring-your-own type device in an environment. So that means that I can bring in my MacBook Pro into the environment, I can work, I can have all my personal stuff on that MacBook Pro, but when I need to work and do my, get access to my corporate applications, get access to my Windows-based applications and data, I can fire up Fusion on my Mac and I connect to my managed Windows operating system. But again, Mirage is controlling from the back end. So some key Mirage solutions and use cases, and again we'll go into Windows 7 in a bit more detail in a second. But some of the others that we're seeing, we've just mentioned bring your own device, bring your own computer, and how we can support that. Image management, again, it's been the bane of some administrators' lives for many years, and we're looking at how we can centralize and simplify that. Disaster recovery and repair, really important. Again, many customers in the past haven't really catered for this, but wouldn't it be great if we could really quickly and simply restore a user's machine to maybe a dissimilar device, to perhaps a virtual machine? You imagine a lost or completely destroyed laptop. If we could restore a complete image of a user's machine to a virtual machine or dissimilar hardware very quickly, to get them up and running, that would be great. Also allowing end users to be able to self-service. We can allow them to self-repair their machines rather than going through this whole troubleshooting process with the help desk. Wouldn't it be great if I could simply say, well, I've lost a couple of files or a folder. Let me just pop to my web browser, go to my self-service portal for Mirage and restore the data myself, or even just roll back my machine a couple of hours or a day or two to when it was working before I deleted some system files, perhaps. So that's the kind of capabilities that we're giving you. And then branch office is a key one. We'll go into a bit more detail, but branch office is, again, typically difficult and expensive to manage. If you've got a number of offices, maybe even offices with just a couple of users in, you're either going to have local support, or you're going to have somebody ready to go on the road to go and fix or repair those machines, and that's time-consuming and costly. What we're aiming for is a zero-touch support, restore, disaster recovery type scenario where an end user can again self-service over the WAN, or we can very simply restore a complete image over the WAN to another piece of hardware. And then Windows 7 migrations, of course. Because of this layered approach, it allows us to really simplify and accelerate Windows 7 migrations and hardware refreshes, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail in a second. So yeah, these are the two ones we're going to focus in on, mostly the Windows 7 migration, of course. So as I mentioned, because we've taken this layered approach, because we can streamline the image management, because we can create a single core image in the data center, it allows us to very, very simply and quickly go down this migration route. You know, if you're not aware, there's 304 days remaining of XP support. That's 304 days until April the 8th, 2014, and it's surprising, you know, how many people still are to go down the migration route to start it, or even, you know, you may well have started this migration already, but looking at the project plan, is it taking longer than it should do, or is it taking you past April the 8th, 2014? And how much is it costing? You know, how are you doing that migration? Is it using native tools? Is it using just, you know, legs? You know, are you wheeling in bodies to do this manual task? And the problem is with that is it's a costly approach. It's time consuming, and the big one is there's quite a large amount of associated downtime for the end user. You know, there's two ways to do this. We can look at an in-place migration, or we can look at a hardware refresh with a new Windows 7 image. But both methods have pitfalls and have associated costs. You know, at the bottom here we've got a bit of a case study, and I'm going to skip to the next slide because, actually I'm not, I'm going to go back. But essentially here, you know, this is one customer we've dealt with for 17,000 globally distributed PCs. Now, I know that's a bit extreme. Not every customer has got 17,000 globally distributed PCs, but you know, what we found is even with customers around the 1,000, 2,000 desktop mark, what we can do is we can reduce the cost of that Windows 7 migration by up to 70%, and that's typically labor costs, because what we're doing is we're able to very easily take a copy of that Windows XP machine that's out on the network. We're able to then compile a Windows 7 core image. We can deploy that Windows 7 core image across the WAN using our you know, very scalable and optimized network and storage protocols, and we can allow the user to continue working while we inject that image to their new machine. And then we can simply reboot and set up that machine. And typically what we're doing is we're reducing the time to migrate from anywhere typically between 4 to 6 hours of downtime to around 30 to 40 minutes. So that's a huge, huge saving in not only the labor costs for the admin at the back end, but also productivity for the end user. You know, if I'm losing my laptop for half an hour while it reboots and configures Windows 7, comes back up, and it's immediately got all of my stuff on it. I've not lost anything, and I've not had hours of downtime. So that's one area. In a hardware refresh type scenario, again, what we're able to do is we're able to, of course, inject the image still if we want to do it that way. But what we can do is migrate that user data, user persona, the wallpaper, the custom settings, the dictionaries, and the associated data. We're able to very easily transfer that and in a much streamlined way to get that user up and running with all of their familiar stuff on a new Windows 7 piece of hardware. So I think I've probably mentioned most of this already. We can do an in-place, overwrite the previous Windows XP base layer with a Windows 7 base layer. If you're taking the hardware refresh approach, we can very quickly and simply migrate the user profile and files from the previous PC to the new Windows 7 hardware. And then the user profile and file layers stay persistent. That's the key bit, is the users keep their user experience, they keep their stuff, and there's no data loss associated with that. The great benefit is, of course, that because we've taken a copy of this this Windows XP image, we can very simply roll back. If for some reason the migration doesn't go as planned, if there's a technical problem, if there's something missing that we have missed during the setup, then we can roll back to that Windows XP system using Mirage as well. So again, saving time and saving data. So this is the case study I mentioned. You can read about this online. But yeah, like I said, it's not everyone has 17,000 PCs, but it's really to highlight the kind of scalability and to the scale of the savings that are probably made in this scenario. So I'm not going to go into it in any more detail. So the other key solution area is the branch office desktop. Again, I've kind of mentioned some of this, but really what we're saying here is we want to get help IT get to the point where for certainly small and remote branch offices, it's a low or zero touch support, because we can allow the users to self-service, to restore their own machines, restore files and data, to migrate those machines remotely as well, and all centrally delivered and managed. And this is really designed the solution for a WAN-based type of branch office scenario. So very much optimized for WAN synchronization. So very quickly on the architecture, very simple architecture. In fact, we've got the Mirage servers that will be obviously centrally located. Typically one Mirage server, could be virtual, could be physical, will manage up to around 1,500 desktop PCs. And of course we can increase that number by clustering the Mirage servers together. We connect it up to some network attached storage or a SAN at the background. And if we've got multiple servers, we would use a load balancer to allow connection to those multiple Mirage servers. We have a single management console that our admins can use. Again, an admin typically would be able to migrate around 100 or so concurrent desktops per day. So that's, again, if you're working out how many migrations you can do or how many each person can manage, with Mirage we're saying around one admin can concurrently migrate around 100 desktops per day. So that's, again, huge benefit. But then what we're doing is we're deploying an agent out, 4 meg MSI agent, very lightweight and actually transparent to the end user, to our Macs running Fusion Pro, for instance, to our laptops, to our PCs on the LAN, to our laptops on the WAN, and using very smart dedupe and global dedupe type technologies to synchronize and back up those machines to the data center. So we're only copying the data that's different from machine to machine, but we're not storing 15,000 desktop images back in the data center. We're just really storing the differences. And then something important to note is this branch reflector. This is another part of the architecture. And again, the common question that comes up is, what infrastructure do we need? Certainly, talking about zero touch to branch offices, how do we support that? And what we do is we can allow any Mirage client out on a branch office to, we can assign it as a branch reflector, and essentially that's a central hub or aggregator. So when we push out base layers and images from our central Mirage server, we're only pushing it to one machine on that branch site, and then allowing that machine to push it out to the remainder of the clients on that site. Similarly, when we're pulling data, pulling the user-installed applications, pulling the data, pulling the changes to those machines, we're pulling them from those Mirage clients back to the branch reflector locally on that LAN, on the branch office, and then taking it once back from that machine back to the data center. So again, reducing the WAN transmissions by up to 90%. So why choose Mirage? Hopefully I've kind of covered a lot of this, but really simple. It's a very simple tool, low infrastructure costs, cost-effective and easy to build and scale out with that built-in backup and recovery, and it's very non-disruptive, as it says. Very transparent to the end users, which is important. For help desk, it means that we can now, for tier 1 help desk type staff, we're giving them a lot more power and ability to simply restore users' machines and files and data with this type of tool set. And also end user experience, it's allowing them to keep their stuff. I can fit my wallpaper of my kids regardless of my machine I'm using, and have that native desktop performance, which is key. So finally, we're coming up to the end, but finally what I'd what I'd say is take a look at these links, do engage with our colleagues at SoftwareONE, and really the next steps, things like we could go through a technical demo and show you more of the ins and outs of the tool set and exactly what it's doing and how it's doing it. And also we'd be happy to help with setting up a trial. You can download a free trial, and we'd be happy to help along with SoftwareONE to get that up and running in your environment and show you how that works. But what we will do after this is also send out the recording and also send out a solution brief that really breaks down the Windows 7 migration piece and how those savings come about. But other than that, that's me done. I know it was a lot of information in a short space of time, but if there's any questions, I'm happy to take those in the chat window, or if we wanted to unmute the lines, we can take them on the call. David?
Yep. Hi, Dan. Thank you very much, Dan. So, yes, do feel free to use the chat box facility. I'll also just unmute everyone for a few brief seconds. So, if you do have any questions, please do speak now. Okay, I will assume that silence means that everyone's keeping their thoughts to themselves, and lots of things to think about there, Dan. So thank you very much for going through today's session. So I will just remind everyone in terms of what there is in terms of follow-up. So do speak to your SoftwareONE account managers with regards to the free trial around VMware Horizon Mirage. So our SoftwareONE account managers can help facilitate that for you, and also help arrange a one-to-one meeting with VMware to go in more detail with regards to your specific requirements and specific environments. And also don't forget to discuss our desktop services as well, how we can help start discussing your desktop strategy, and also around our BYOD licensing workshops as well, which may be of use if you're looking at BYOD as part of your desktop strategy. So thank you very much. Thank you all for joining us today. Apologies again for the mishap at the beginning of the session with the password. I'm not sure what went wrong there, but thank you for your patience and for joining our session. And thank you to Dan for going through the content, and we look forward to joining you on new sessions in the near future. Thank you.